Ah, what a beautiful night it is here in New York City. As long as you're not outside, because, quite frankly, the humidity is ridiculous. You know, I'm very disappointed by MLG and WCS. I came up here from very humid North Carolina to try and escape it, and what do I find when I get here? More humidity. What are you guys doing?
It's the Northeast, man. It's the Northeast. It's just the way the summers work. Of course, what that means is you got to be inside appreciating a great game of StarCraft. We've got another great game coming for you guys. Scarlett vs. Revival. Game number 2, Scarlett a little bit shaken after that first loss.
Certainly, and Revival looking super pleased with himself, as you can see here, is absolutely ecstatic to have won Game 1. There's really no question about that. You just need to look into those eyes. You can see the fire within. But one way or the other, super smart gameplay from Evil Genius's Revival. It's so odd, because when we were looking at it, we thought, wow, Scarlett's holding this force back, pinning him down. This is a really awkward spot for Revival because he's been stuck on 2 bases. He's been building up this army. He's got nowhere to go with it. He can move across the map, but he needs the queens with him. And then suddenly the engagement comes in, and suddenly those slow queens give their lives for the swarm, eating 20+ banelings. And the Hydralisks behind, like, wow, really? That just happened? Fantastic. Let's get in here. Let's just stick the boot in. I don't know if Revival was necessarily expecting that, but I think Revival had to attack. I mean, he couldn't just leave that third up. That wasn't going to happen. And it just turned out to be a good situation for him. So Scarlett can't be happy with that. It was definitely not the best engagement that we've seen from her. She's very much capable of better. Revival confirms ready. Scarlett confirms ready. So we are going to start the game. It's going to be on Star Station here.
You know what I think played a big role in that game is Scarlett read a Roach Hydra bust.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll make a bunch of banings and beat that easy.
Yeah.
And then it didn't come. It just with this slow queen push. And that was a situation where really she either wanted to spend that money on the banings instead on a lot of roaches, maybe even swarm hosts. She would have actually had time because it hit so late to get swarm hosts up. Yeah. But if she either went for roaches or swarm hosts and was a faster attack, she wouldn't have had time to get a decent number. So it was a kind of a tricky call on her part, and Revival really punished her.
Yeah. Revival's a sneaky one, I'll tell you that for a fact. And as you said, it's so hard to make that decision. If you take a risk and start to tech and you don't have the army, suddenly that thing barrels across the map and you're like, oh, I don't have any units. That's going to be a problem. You're not going to hold that with 6 mutas. However, we are here on Star Station. It's a new game. Let's see if this player can manage to revive her chances in this particular series in the Red Trunks playing Zerg. It is Acer Scarlett versus her opponent to the southeast position. This is, of course, cross-only version of Star Station. In the Blue Trunks, also playing Zerg, Evil Genius's Revival.
That guy is just cold as ice, man.
He is willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, he sacrificed his queens.
He did.
Most Zerg players will sacrifice everything but the queens. Mm-hmm. Like, if a Protoss is pressuring him with gateway pressure or another Zerg's busting him with banings, the queens are always the ones that are running back and being very cared for. But that game, I was like, nope, you guys in the front lines.
Oh man, some serious regicide going on right there. Just the mass murder of 8 or 9 queens. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, what a great unit to do that with. If it's out on the map there, it's got a huge amount of hit points. It's actually got no armor type, which is the funky thing about queens. You might think the queens would be vulnerable to something. No, they're not actually vulnerable to really anything, simply because they don't have an armor type. They just have a lot of hit points. These big, and they're big units as well. And funnily enough, when the fungal went down, I think that fungal actually, in a weird way, worked against Scarlett because it actually fungaled it in a nice little wall where the banelings just then crashed into that wall. And the queens didn't even move, they just took the hits. But, you know, that's obviously not a big part of that fight. It was going to happen one way or the other. Overlords pass in the night.
So, we see a little bit of a different play from Revival, not going for that gasless build. Instead going just for the standard way of playing the build where you get the spawn pull then the gas. Both players doing almost the exact same build. No differences yet. We'll see. The one thing to wait and see is any player going to take a third hatchery before teching lair? Is anyone going to start getting Evo Chambers, try to go for early upgrades, or are we just going to see like the Muta War? We'll have to wait and see.
A lot of money for both players, I got to say. I'm just keeping an eye out for whether or not we see drones moving down here. But it will be 2 queens for either player and 2 drones. So we certainly won't be seeing a third yet. Speed starts at the same time for both players. And I think we're going to see a bit of a classic here. We will see some Link Baneling wars over the first few minutes of this game.
Oh, an Evo chamber going down for
hello.
Scarlett.
All right.
This is interesting. This is, traditionally this is around the time you get that Baning Nest, drones, and Spinecrawler. But going for this Evo chamber...
I wonder, is this the +1 armor speedling build in this matchup? I'm
pretty sure it is. This is too early of an Evo chamber to make sense for really anything but the +1 armor for the speedlings. And then, of course, her goal is going to be just take map control, get a base up on her opponent, put a lot of pressure on it, even if she can't... Actually, look at that, getting the attack instead of the armor. That's really interesting.
That's odd. Now, the reason why I say it could have been the plus armor upgrade, and the reason why that's actually a build that works in this matchup, is that if you have +1 armor, Banelings don't kill Zerglings in one hit. They leave them with about 1 hit point left, right? Which is always nice. But the plus attack is a little bit more unusual.
The plus attack is very good if your opponent's going roaches, although the armor is actually great as well. It prevents the roaches from killing you in 3 shots, even if they have their attack upgrade. Although
yeah, for something that slow, it helps as well with the attack speed there. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to see Scarlett just pump out a lot of Zerglings here. Banelings coming in defense for Revival, and actually, no, in attack. I mean, those were definitely offensive Banelings there from Revival, and they're all going to get completely shut down by a nice early Speedling attack there.
Wow. Well, I think Revival wasn't anticipating that many speedings. Of course, Scarlett is about 7 drones behind. She's trying to catch back up, and that's because she got the Evo chamber to upgrade, and she got all those speedlings a little bit on the early side.
Yeah, now, I would usually say in this situation, no, defensive Banelings are fine, but losing kind of 4 at the front there, that's not so good. That puts Revival back on the defensive here, with Spinecrawlers trying to morph their way in. And then a couple of Banelings at the top here, and Scarlett, we're going to have to see Scarlett's control. Just how good is it? Will it be able to deal with this? This defense is very strong. There's an awkwardly placed Spinecrawler towards the back there, which means that Lings are going to be funneled into a position where they could be flanked with 2 Banelings at the top of the ramp here. They roll. Oh, wow. That was so scary. Scarlett gets into the, I was going to say, Scarlett gets into the main base with 1. That's not going to actually do anything. It's a shame she didn't actually just attack the Banelings at the top of the ramp there.
Well, she was able to scout the lair timing and the gas as well, so it's not a total loss. Both players now have scouted each other's mains. They both realized, okay, we're both going 2 base lair. Scarlett is continuing to upgrade these Zerglings, but she's on 4 gas. It's not entirely clear how she's going to play the mid game.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing indeed.
Both players going
ridiculously early infestation pit here for Revival.
Both players going straight to 2 base. Infestation pit, Revival getting roach speed. Scarlett just sticking with the speeding upgrade. So because she's investing in these upgrades, it's unlikely she's really going to use a lot of roach hydra composition in the mid game. So is the infestation pit for I don't know, if it was Swarm Host, it would have been the other upgrade as well. It could
Swarm Host is a possibility, but yeah, but you're right. As I said, the upgrades don't make any sense for that.
Maybe Infestor speeding and then even potentially Ultras down the road, or just really utilizing Infestors at a high level with tons of speedings, because she's taking that 3rd hatchery and she's producing more and more and more and more speedings. So really, really going to rely on these speedlings in the coming battles.
Yeah, and she doesn't really have a choice there. The problem. This is actually kind of neat. If Revival relies an awful lot on, say, Banelings here, then the Infestors will be really good. If he relies a lot on Roaches, the Infestors will be pretty good too. They should be able to get those big bunched up Roaches, hit them with good fungals.
The bottom line is even in Heart of the Storm, when people think Infestors aren't quite as good, they're still kind of good no matter what your opponent does. There's nothing that really hard counters an Infestor in the ZVZ matchup. Just takes a little bit to get him out, but with this map control, she has plenty of time to detect those Infestors.
Yeah, the cool thing is as well, you were talking about the upgrades earlier against Roaches, that attack upgrade and the armor upgrade. I mean, there's going to be both. So these Lings are going to be surprisingly effective, especially with Fungal backing them up. We're looking for a cancel on the 3rd base here. Scarlett is surprising amount of damage coming out, and this build, as strange as it might be, seems to be doing a great job against Revival. Forces a cancel on the 3rd base there. The Roaches aren't out of time. They get surrounded by those upgraded Speedlings, but Scarlett decides not to engage with more reinforcements coming in. These Speedlings are surprisingly dangerous, like shockingly dangerous at this stage of the game.
Scarlett going straight to Hive Tech. I think this means she probably wants to utilize some Ultralisk.
Yep.
That's the most likely thing. In this composition, Vipers aren't quite as useful, and Brooders are a little bit slow and harder to get to. The question is there's going to be a couple minutes before those ultras come out the field, and she's going to have to defend with spine cores. Does Revival try to break through with a slurry of roaches, or is he going to try to find a composition that'll defeat Ultras?
That's a tricky one as well. Interesting to see the Hive going down and the possible transition to Ultralisk before +2/+2 is even started, actually. But I have to wonder if that's so important in the Zerg versus Zerg matchup. Burrow coming in as well, so we could see some sneaky Infestor play.
More and more speeding's coming out. She's really got Revival kind of scared and on her defensive with this speeding aggression. It's giving her total map control. But behind us, it's just been straight teching to the Hive. Now the Ultras Cavern is starting +2 attack as well as Burrow.
Nice. This is going to be fun, and it's been a really cool game to watch so far. This style, not that common, used very much to keep your opponent on the back foot, deny that third base, which was fantastic to see. Third base is now up. It will certainly not go down to the speeding aggression here. There's a decent amount of Infestors on the field here for Revival as well, although there is the Infestor advantage for Scarlett. And now Scarlett, as you said, just has to sit there, try and get Ultralisks up, and then go for the engagement. And Ultras are good against pretty much everything now, as long as it doesn't fly.
I don't see how Revival's going to try to compete against Ultras. I mean, Roaches are very weak against Ultras. Infestors are pretty much useless. I mean, the fungal growth doesn't really hit the Ultras. And the new Ultras in Heart of the Storm actually goes through infested Terrans very quickly as well.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they slice up pretty much everything. And Roaches were bad against Ultras in the best of times because they used to have the plus armor. But now, in this sense, they just do a lot of damage to everything. Sneaky, 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 off we go.
This is risky, though.
I mean, it definitely is. If this gets spotted somehow, then that could be disastrous. There's no Overseer, though. There's no Spore Crawler. This could be really good. As you said, it is a gambit, certainly. But this could be ridiculously dangerous. Infested Terrans now coming down. Oh my god, that's a huge amount blanketing the natural.
Oh, man. Revival... how's he going to really deal with this? I mean, the Roaches might eventually clean it up, but it's just free units.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you're just spending energy, and down goes that base. This is pretty much going to force Revival to attack. It becomes all in at this point. On 2 bases with your natural down, there's... in fact, he is on 3, of course, but even then, losing your natural is huge. And lots of damage is actually being done here to the lair. Didn't kill it, but significant economic losses taken here by Revival.
And the Ultras are out in the field now. The armor upgrade for the Ultras is about to finish as well as their +2 attack. The third base is vulnerable. The Roaches and Defestors are all in the main base. That third hatch is going to go down.
Very nice play here by Scarlett to drive her opponent out of position here. And there should be enough lings to kill it. There's no transfuse, and down it goes. And, well, I was talking about a 2-base Zerg. Yeah, it really is now. He's actually a 1-base and 1 hatchery building Zerg. I see no option for Revival here other than to attack. Revival knows that. This is a perfectly planned out build here by Scarlett. The Ultralisks are going to be done by the time that this hits. I do not see a situation where Revival wins this fight. But he's got a supply advantage, but with Ultras, really? I mean...
maybe if she dances Ultras before
that's
the battle's
a possibility.
over.
Oh, that was beautiful. Really nice maximum range fungal comes in there. You see how fast the Ultralisks cleave through that army. If she gets a terrible engagement here, then maybe, just maybe, that works out. But these Roaches are being sliced to pieces by the Ultralisks of Scarlett right now. Revival's supply count plummets completely. The Infestors wish they didn't get out of bed this morning because there's Ultralisks bearing down on them right now. No Burrow upgrade for you. Oh, look how you... that's very pretty, you know.
The fungal growth
nice little, yeah, nice little decorations for the Ultralisks. They love the color green. They, of course, will not be fungal. That would be ridiculous. And Scarlett is now in a position where she is almost certainly going to win this game convincingly.
So, for you guys back to who are wondering, the fungal growth still does damage to Ultras, but fungal growth never really does that much damage. And to units like Ultras, it's fairly insignificant. Of course, it's still worth casting. I mean, you might as well put it there. But Ultras are immune to the stun effect of the fungal, so they just charge right through it, just having a little bit of a green massage on their back.
Yeah, indeed. You can just scrub that off with a legendary cloth. It works pretty well. And now Scarlett is going to barrel down on Revival, and under no circumstances will he defend. GG, ladies and gentlemen. Scarlett with a incredibly convincing build order. It seemed a bit weird at the start, in that the +1 attack instead of the armor. The armor is definitely the more common version. In this case, though, the +1 attack actually worked out really well. She was able to do more damage than was expected, deny the third base much faster than you would have thought, and then transition into a sneaky style, which took her up to Hive. mean, not heavily upgraded ultras, but in that situation, you don't need that. The upgrades are not that vital. You are able to just plow forward. Getting the +2 armor was great. He goes against the roaches and just slaps them about. And there were just pieces of roach flying everywhere. It was awesome to watch. Scarlett dominates that match.
Absolutely brilliant play there. Revival really had no idea what was happening. I think he was a little bit confused there throughout most of that game.
So were we. That's a really cool build. That's really awesome, in fact. And it's not the kind of thing that would work two times in a row.
This is shaking Revival.
Yeah. As you can see, Revival's actually terrified right now. It's you just need to look at his nose. Twitches slightly, but no, he's stone-faced and always will be. There's no question you're not going to get any emotion out of him right now. Good way to be as well. I'm hoping that his emotional state reflects what we see on his face there, that he's saying to himself, that was interesting. Didn't expect that coming. What can I do from here? We've got another map to play on. Can I play a better style? What style is Scarlett going to play? Because that's where Scarlett gets dangerous. What if she has another build like that? We don't know.
Well, if she does, then Revival may be in trouble, of course. They're tied 1-1. Game 3 will be coming right at you after a short break.